We're starting to get some of the NBA draft withdrawal announcements rolling in, and there's one that I think would fit very well in Chapel Hill. Bring on Brazil.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and I want to thank you for joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Really appreciate you making us your first listen or watch. Hey, special shout out to all you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. So glad that all of you are here. If you're a guest here, glad that you're here as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Again, that's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. A couple things as we get going here today. First off, you probably heard the very sad news on Monday that Bill Walton has passed away. I know he's a little bit out there, but this is one of the icons of our sport, both in college basketball and NBA. He is somebody that, you know me as a glass half full person, just brought life and vitality and energy to people. I know that he overcame a stuttering problem to be the announcer that he was. I love what that represents. And so, man, just a mountain of a man whose physical stature is only dwarfed by his personality. And the person he was and the way he loved well. So I'm very sad that Bill Walton has left us at 71 after a long battle with cancer. Also, for those of you watching, you notice I'm wearing a Braves pullover today. A lot of you know I'm a big Braves fan, but this is in solidarity with the Braves, who lost Ronald Acuna Jr. for the season to an ACL for the second time in the past 4 seasons, other knee. But not only just because of that, but also going to use Ronald Acuna Jr. as an analogy here in a little bit. All right, here's what's coming up on the show today. Reminder that the withdrawal deadline is tomorrow night, Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. And what we're talking about today, Trevon Brazile, the Arkansas transfer, or who might stay at Arkansas but has pulled out of the NBA draft. We'll talk about him. Baseball selection show was Monday. Got all the news and updates and thoughts about that. And men's golf is down to the final 8 going on right now as you listen to or watch this. So we'll get to all of that. But let's start with Trevon Brazile. There was a lot of wondering whether he would come back to college or not. I personally think it was the right decision for him. We'll talk more about that why here in just a second. But the first person I saw reporting this on Monday was Jeff Goodman, so I want to shout him out, who got the news from Brazile's agent. If you're not familiar with Trevon Brazile, he's 6'10", forward, 220 pounds, and is basically, to quote Goodman in his tweet, wide open looking for his next spot. And so let me just give you a little bit about Brazile, if you're not familiar with him. Does have 2 years of eligibility remaining, played his freshman year at Mizzou, actually grew up and went to high school like an hour east of me in Springfield, Missouri, but then has played at least parts of the last 2 seasons at Arkansas, had an electric 9-game beginning to his 22-23 campaign, and then had an ACL, his right ACL actually in December of 22. And so missed the rest of that season, came back for this past season, was kind of wild to me, and played the majority of the season, had to miss some games. Just some quick stats. I won't bother with the Mizzou stuff because he was a freshman getting it figured out, but sophomore year, that shortened year at Arkansas, in 9 games, he was playing 27 minutes a game, 11.8 points, 6 boards, 1.2 blocks, and then had that season-ending injury. Last year at Arkansas, 26 games, started 25.7 minutes a game, 8.6 points, 5.9 boards, 1.2 blocks. So the points and boards were down. Career 35.4% three-point shooter on 2.2 3-point attempts a game, But at Arkansas, a career 36% three-point shooter on 2.8 attempts per game. So here's the thing for me with Trevon Brazile and where I want to compare him to Ronald Acuna Jr. For those who don't remember, back when the Braves won the World Series in 2021, Acuna tore his ACL, like I think it was the last game before the All-Star break down in Miami. Braves went on to win the World Series. Acuna came back the next year for the 2022 season. And it looked that whole season like he was trying to get himself back, trying to trust his knee again, trying to get there, just still working his way back into form. But then last season, the year after the injury, was when he was fully himself again. And oh, by the way, was the NL MVP, put up a 40-70 season, which the MLB has never seen before. And then obviously on Sunday, same thing, ACL. But my point is, in talking about Acuna, Brazil has his ACL in December of 22. Came back last year. I was shocked he was ready to go so quickly and just wasn't the same player he was in that 9-game stretch to start the year at Arkansas. And in that 9-game stretch, he was phenomenal. Like, I was so thoroughly impressed with what he was doing for the Razorbacks. What just wasn't there this past year. But this upcoming season, I believe, could be a blow-up year for him. His Acuna MVP year, if you'll allow me that, because he will be working to get fully healthy. Just will have that much more time, almost 2 full years removed by the time we get playing this November. His 3-point shooting for a stretch 4, I think, is solid in what you'd take. But also think about this. This is a young man who is coming back to college after getting a bunch of advice from NBA scouts. To me, there's probably 2 key things they have said to him in preparing to come back. Number one, we need to see that 3-point shot is consistent. Don't strictly and solely focus on that. Like, play the game, be the athlete that you are, do all the things that you do. But we need to see that at a high level. So I think he's going to be in the lab working on that 3-point shot. And then probably also, hey, Trevon, when you came back this year, you weren't the same player you were the year before. So we need to see that athleticism again before we can trust it. So, just learning to trust that lateral mobility again, all sorts of things like that is what he's going to have to do. So he's going to be working on all of that this summer, and I think we'll be ready to go. So for me, I'm all in on Carolina getting in touch with Brazil, having legit conversations, and seeing if he could be a match for them. Somebody that could play alongside a Ven-Allen Lubin, a Jalen Washington, whomever it would be in the front court. The thing we got to consider, though, is he going to just go back to Arkansas? He's in the transfer portal, so he could go anywhere. But Arkansas right now only has 8 scholarship players. 6 of them came with John Calipari from Kentucky. 2 of them are Jonas Aidoo from Tennessee, unfortunately, and John L. Davis from FAU. And so, and as I look at those 8, I kind of evaluated and broke it down on Monday's episode of Locked On College Basketball. They're really needing an impact forward. They need a power forward. They've got to do Thiero, who I think right now will start alongside Jonas Aidoo in the front court. But I think Brazil would bump Thiero either out of the starting lineup or down to the 3, because I would rather have Brazil. So we're really, really going to watch that. Can Coach Cal convince him to come back? I hope not. And I hope that Carolina at least makes contact with him. I know, like, a lot of people reached out to me on Monday on Memorial Day and said, hey, wasn't there some kind of locker room stuff with Brazil? It's nothing I'm worried about. So, like, just don't even bother with that. Obviously, there's other schools that would be interested in him too, like an Illinois trying to replace Coleman Hawkins. They haven't found somebody for that. A Texas trying to replace Dylan Dessou. So there's going to be no end of schools that are going to want him. And so we'll just see. So keep your eye out. Pay attention. Will North Carolina reach out? And if so, will we hear about it? I think, again, this is somebody that you got to very seriously consider. And I've had a lot of like, Isaac, I feel like we're constantly being jerked around by all these transfer portal targets. Why do you continue to cover it? Well, for me, the thing is you're looking to finish off this roster. And so there's so many guys that you need to consider. And so when there's somebody that either I believe is worth considering or that we have public knowledge that Carolina is considering, I want to present them to you so that you can at least have this player on your radar. And with Trevon Brazile, he's somebody that I think is worthy of that. So we'll see what happens with it. All right, on Monday on Memorial Day, the NCAA baseball selection show took place and the Tar Heels got a great seed. But the reigning national champions are also coming to the Chapel Hill Regional this weekend. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after we talk about FanDuel, it's winner take all time right now in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 that you can use on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. I know the Eastern Conference Finals wrapped up on Monday night, but tonight, Tuesday, is Western Conference Finals Game 4. Mavs favored by 2 at home over the Timberwolves, excuse me. So will we get a sweep in both conference finals? We'll figure out. But I know that's a small line. Mavs -2. I'm willing to go at least 3 or 4 on that thing, right? So maybe you want to get in on that action. If you do, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We have Selection Sunday in college basketball, but it's Selection Monday in college baseball. On Memorial Day, we had the field of 64 announced. Yes, baseball still does it right. No play-in teams, no bloated to 68 kind of situation there, 64. And as I told you on Monday's show, even though Carolina lost in pool play in the ACC tournament, I wasn't worried about them still being a top 8 national seed. And quite frankly, they're higher than even I thought they would be. Carolina gets the #4 overall national seed. We learned that just a little bit. The selection show was at noon Eastern on Monday. And about 11:30 or so, NCAA baseball tweeted out the top 4 teams alphabetically. And there was the NC interlocking logo right there. And it's like, yeah, baby, this is going to be a top 4 team. You love to see it. Now, I want to give you the top 8. I'm not going to run through the whole field because that's wild, but I do want to give you the top 8 because these are the 8 teams that if they advance out of their regional, which isn't a guarantee for any of these teams, they would also host super regional sites. Now, what's interesting about this top 8, I also mentioned on Monday's show that part of the reason I wasn't worried about Carolina dropping out of the top 8 is because a projected like 6 or 7 of the top 8 were ACC or SEC teams, and only 2 of them could win their respective conference tournament. So it's not something the selection committee would hold against them. Well, it turns out the entire top 8 are either SEC teams or ACC. 5 SEC, 3 ACC. Let me give them to you. #1, Tennessee. #2, Kentucky. #3, Texas A&M. #4, North Carolina. Hey, #5, Arkansas. #6, Clemson. #7, Georgia. And #8, FSU. So, I mean, as you heard me say there, the top 3 teams are all SEC and 4 of the top 5. So, committee just giving all sorts of love to the SEC. In totality, SEC sets an all-time record with 11 teams in this tournament. The ACC not far behind with 8. So 20 of the 64 teams, almost exactly a third, are coming from either the SEC or ACC. Wild stuff, and you love to see all of this great baseball coming out of these great conferences. Let me give you the rundown of the Chapel Hill Regional. If you're not aware, they just name the regionals by the host city. Obviously, the Tar Heels are the top seed by virtue of being the host. #2 is LSU, the reigning national champions, coming in there. #3, Wofford, coming out of the SoCon, is the 3 seed. And #4, Long Island out of the NEC. So Carolina will face off against Long Island and then LSU against Wofford. All of that will happen on Friday. I'm going to give you the schedule and more about the teams here in just a second. Just want to give you what all that is right now. And then the way this works is it is kind of a bracket until as you get to Omaha with the top 8 teams there in the World Series. And so the winner of Carolina, the Chapel Hill Regional, is already paired up with another regional for the Super Regional. And that is the Tucson Regional with Arizona. So Arizona is the 13 overall seed. The 4 teams in their regional, Arizona is the 1, and they will play on Friday for Grand Canyon University, GCU, and the 2 seed is Dallas Baptist. The 3 seed is West Virginia. So you might look at that Tucson regional and think, oh, West Virginia is a power high major school. They got to be the 2 seed, right? No, Dallas Baptist legit if you don't follow baseball. Here's what would be funny about this. If Carolina and Arizona both advance out of their regional to play one another in the Super Regional, they would do what the 2 men's basketball teams couldn't do to meet up in the Elite 8. How wild would that be? Pretty funny stuff. Anyway, so there's the region. That's what's going on there. Let me tell you a little bit more about the other 3 teams in the Chapel Hill Regional with the Diamond Heels. Obviously, Carolina's 42-13, finished first in the ACC and 32-2 at Boshamer Stadium. And that gets me so very excited for what's ahead. That place has got to be electric on Friday and all weekend long. So that's where Carolina's at. As for LSU, they also 40-win team, 40-21. They finished tied for 4th in the SEC West, but due to a whole bunch of there's a bunch of teams with their same conference record. They were the 11 seed in the SEC tournament. Did ultimately make the SEC championship game, but lost to Tennessee, the number 1 overall team in the nation. LSU this year was 6-11 on the road, so that bodes well for the Tar Heels. LSU is 23rd in RPI. They're 16th at the NCBWA ranking, but not ranked anywhere else. Not in the coaches poll, not in the D1 poll, not in the Baseball America poll. And so while there's the prestige of LSU, it's not the same team. Number 3 seed, Wofford. They come in 41-18 out of the SoCon. Their RPI is 46, so don't sleep on Wofford. They did finish 5th in the regular season in the SoCon, but won the conference tournament. And their road record, since they'll be in Chapel Hill, is 13-12. And then the 4th team in the Chapel Hill Regional, Long Island, out of the Northeastern Conference, or the NEC. Their RPI is 195, very low. They finished the regular season 2nd in the NEC standings, but came out of the losers bracket, actually having lost to Sacred Heart, who was the 1 seed in the NEC, to beat them twice this weekend. And in fact, in the championship game, Long Island, this is just wild to me, was down 5-4 heading into the 9th inning. They were the visitors, scored 7 runs in the top of the 9th. To take an 11-5 lead and ultimately held on for an 11-6 win over Sacred Heart. Wild stuff to get to this spot. Congrats to Long Island. Let me give you the schedule for the weekend so you can go ahead and mark it on your calendar. On Friday, we'll get the first matchup of all these teams. LSU and Wofford are going to kick it off with game 1 at noon Eastern on ESPNU. Carolina gets the nightcap against Long Island at 6 p.m. Eastern. This game's on ESPN Plus. And so there's that. I know a lot of people are upset that Carolina's not on ESPN and LSU is. I know, part of that has got to be the branding of LSU baseball, but also that should be the better game. Carolina, Long Island shouldn't be a game. And then Saturday, the losers will play at noon in game 3. The loser of that is eliminated. And then the winners, this is game 4, will play at 5 p.m. Then on Sunday, we advance on from there. Of the 3 teams remaining, the 2 teams that are not undefeated, so the loser of the winner's game and the winner of the loser's game will play in game 5 on Sunday at noon. And then at game 6 at 6 o'clock, that game 5 winner against the only remaining undefeated team will play again. And so, big reason that you want to win your first game on Friday, and then you want to win again on Saturday so that they're not having to extend a lot of pitching and play earlier in the day. And so if the undefeated team wins game 6 on Saturday night, That's it, and that's over, and they're headed to the Super Regional. But if the losers bracket team wins, then they will play a winner-take-all championship game on Monday, time TBA on that one. If you want to go to this action at the Bosch on this weekend, all session package you can get in for $90. I mean, that seems like a steal to me for 6, potentially 7 baseball games. Tickets go on sale to the public tomorrow, Wednesday at noon. So be ready for that. If you just want a single game ticket, that's $20. And those will go on sale Thursday at noon. If you're a student though, make sure you catch this. You can get single game tickets for $5. But those have to be for a game that your team is participating in. So make sure you go and cheer on the Tar Heels in a big way this weekend. All right. So I want to give you my thoughts, my takes on all the baseball stuff, where things are at, how things will play out, a couple things to be aware of, as well as golf being down to the final 8. I want to tell you what's next for them coming up today, Tuesday. In fact, they're probably playing right now as you listen to or watch this. We'll get to that in just a second. All right, let's talk about the baseball regional a little bit more here. Carolina, LSU, Wofford, and Long Island. Here's the first thing I want to say. It is such a critically big deal that Carolina is not only a top 16 national seed, so they get to host the regional, but also a top 8 seed. So if they get out of the regional, they will host a super regional guaranteed as well. Because at home, I said it in the last segment, but Carolina's 32-2 at home because this place has been so unique this year. And it needs to be again this weekend. So please, please, please go to these games, even the non-Tar Heels games. Make it just a sea of Carolina blue that these other 3 teams can't contend with. You know there's going to be some LSU folks trying to get in and get a bunch of tickets. Man, drown them out. LSU has a losing road record. Make that keep going. They had a losing conference record. And I say that to say, immediately when this bracket was announced, when this region was announced, people very upset about LSU being the 2 seed in Carolina's bracket. But hear me say this. This is not the team that won the national championship last year. This is not a top 5 national seed. They aren't even in the top 25 polls at a lot of the polls right now. They're 23rd in RPI. Yes, they do have experience. Yes, they've been playing better lately down the stretch, made the SEC championship game, but this is not the same team. Yes, they've got some pieces that Carolina's got to contend with, but they got to get past Wofford, and Carolina's got to get past Long Island before we can even think about that. But obviously, I think most people think Tar Heels and Tigers will be playing. Thinking about Long Island, I know baseball is a different kind of sport than, say, football, where if Carolina and Long Island were playing in football, which Long Island probably doesn't even have a football team, it just wouldn't even be a game. Baseball, anybody can win. But here's the thing. Put this in, because of the bracket nature of this, put this in like March Madness terms. Carolina, as a top 4 national seed, would be the 4th 1 seed overall, meaning that Long Island is essentially a 16 seed. That's what we're talking about here. So Carolina needs to take care of work on Friday night. A potentially big benefit, I'm really curious to see what Coach Forbes does here, is that you probably don't need to throw DeCaro or Sprague on Friday night unless you just want to, unless you just want to keep regular rest. I don't think you need to burn one of those guys in what could be a really long weekend, playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and potentially even Monday. So, if you just want to, hey, look, we're rolling DeCaro out there on Friday. We want to make sure we take care of business. I get that, but you don't have to. Coach Forbes has options, and I like that. Particularly, I like that because LSU is probably going to have to throw Luke Holman on Friday night. He's 14th nationally in both ERA and strikeouts. But Wofford is an infinitely better team than Long Island and is essentially as close to LSU is to North Carolina. And so that's a game. That's not just some throwaway. So with the LSU, though, if Carolina does get to them, they've got 2 of the top home run hitters in the entire nation. Jared Jones is tied for 8th with 26 home runs, and Tommy White is tied for 13th in the nation with 24 home runs. So you just got to stay away from the long ball, keep it in the yard. But White isn't just a home run hitter. He actually leads LSU with a .337 batting average. So there is all that. Now, look, don't sleep on Wofford either. They've got 2 players with over 90 hits each. For context, there are only 21 players in the entire nation that have 90 or more hits. Wofford has 2 of them. Yeah, you're hearing me right. The national leader has 96. Marshall Toole from Wofford is tied for 8th with 93, just 3 off the national lead. And Bryce Martinez is 16th with 91 hits, just 5 off that lead. So look, they're a team that can spray it around and hit a bunch. So there you go. Some people have expressed concern to me over Carolina not doing better in the ACC tournament last week. I frankly just don't care about it, similar to the ACC tournament in basketball. Just not very consequential. You take your learning lessons from it, sure. How could we have wrapped up that game in extra innings? What did we do wrong? What did we do right? All of that. But you flush it and you move on to this weekend and take care of business. And ideally, here's what you want to happen on Friday night. Get ahead early, set LIU way, 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 way back, and then you can use back-end bullpen guys to finish off the game if need be. Just don't want to use much pitching, high leverage pitching, I guess I would say. That's the key to Friday. Do what you're supposed to do. That's the advantage of getting to essentially play a 16 seed while LSU and Wofford are basically an 8 and 9 seed, if you can think about it that way, struggling with one another. And the 10-run rule, I don't think is in effect for the NCAA tournament. Like, that was an experimental rule this season that the ACC was utilizing. And so I believe you got to play out a full 9 on Friday. But again, get a big lead, take care of it. All right, men's golf. Let me catch you up on what's going on here. The guys do advance to today's quarterfinal matchup, and semifinal is also today, should they be fortunate enough to win. For the men's golf team, this is the 4th straight time they've advanced out of the 4 days of stroke play to match play. How impressive is that? Well, they're literally the only team with that streak right now, having advanced in 21, 22, 23, and 24. In fact, in the 15 seasons of the match play era, they're just the 3rd team to have a 4-year streak of making it to the final 8 teams and match play. So you love to see it. Of the 15 teams that were remaining on Monday, Carolina tied for the best round at -4 as a team. In fact, they and Illinois were the only 2 teams to shoot under par on the day. So Carolina rounding into form after 3 days of kind of like, that's not really what the Tar Heels have done this year. But man, rounding into form at just the right time. That's exactly what I want to see heading into match play today. So they finished stroke play tied for 3rd with Virginia, but lost the tiebreaker. So the Tar Heels are the 4 seed. And that means they will face Florida State in the quarterfinals. And seriously, this tees off very early in the morning Pacific time where it's taking place. From UNC's write-up on the action ahead of things, this is the 4th time in the last 2 seasons that the Tar Heels and Florida State have matched up in match play, and it's the 3rd time this season alone. All of those have been highly competitive, so we'll wait to see just how close it is. So here's the tee time schedule for all of the Tar Heels, starting with Dylan Menanti at 9:50, followed by Peter Fountain at 10, Austin Greaser at 10:10, David Ford at 10:20, and then Maxwell Ford finishing things off at 10:30. So maybe you don't keep up with college golf a lot and you don't know how this works. I'm going to tell you. I want to make sure you know what's about to happen. So before I get to that, though, let me just kind of set up the whole day for you. If Carolina beats Florida State, they will face either Illinois, who was the 1 seed, or Georgia Tech, who finished 8th after stroke play, in the semifinal on Tuesday afternoon. And then the 2 winners of the 2 semifinals Tuesday play Wednesday for the national championship. So keep your eyes out for that. By the way, the top 8 teams that have made it to this final 2 days of match play, Illinois finished the top. They were the only team under par in total for the 4 days, -2. I mean, they just killed everyone. Vandy finished second at +10. But here's the thing. Match play is a whole different ballgame than stroke play. So don't just like, oh, Illinois is running away with this. No, those scores don't even matter now. So Vandy is the 2 seed. Virginia, as we already said, will be the 3, Carolina 4, Florida State 5, Auburn the 6. So Auburn will face off with Virginia in one quarterfinal. Ohio State is the 7. They'll face Vandy, and the winner will play the winner of Virginia and Auburn. And then I already said Georgia Tech and Illinois are the 8 and the 1. So here's a reminder of how match play works. Those 5 Tar Heels I just named off, each one of them will play an individual match against one of the 5 Seminole starters. It's not about total number of strokes at all. It's about how many holes you win in your one round. So, Austin Greaser and whoever it is that he's paired up with from Florida State. If on hole 1, Austin shoots a 4 and the Seminole shoots a 5, Austin wins the hole and he's up 1 hole to nothing. If Austin wins in the first 5 holes, if he wins 3 and the Seminole wins 2, it's essentially that same score. Austin's up 1. And so your goal is just to win more holes than your opponent. You know that there are an even number of holes in golf, so you could finish tied ostensibly. And you can tie holes too. If we both shoot par, nothing doing. But also mathematically, like if you win a hole, right? Like if you're about to hit your par putt, but I finish in birdie, that hole's done and I win it. Also mathematically, let's say we've finished 16, there's 2 holes to play and I'm up 3. That's it. I win and I get a point for our team. So with the 5 players playing, that means your team needs to win 3 matches to win the match, and then you move on. So that's what you're looking for and watching for. Just want to give you that primer to make sure everybody is familiar with it. All right. Great show today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Trevon Brazile. Do you think he would be good for the Tar Heels to target? Let me know. If you're not subscribed to the show on audio and video, do that. Super simple to do. Would love to have you as an everydayer. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, we'd love to have you there as well. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. It's so great. The link is in the show notes. Just click on it. It'll prompt you to join. It's free to do so. Seriously, we'd love to have you. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow on Wednesday, but until then, peace.